Where they robbed me at was kind of close to my house, so I tried to run away. I was naive, and I'd never been in that situation before, so I went to run, not realizing he had a gun, and he shot me. It was one bullet that went into my shoulder, kind of bounced around in my body, almost hit my heart, and then it's still stuck in the T3 section of my spine today.
Daddy, can I play the music now? But this we go.
You know that I got love for my kinfolk, my blood.
This is me and Daddy here, and Jenny also. And we're here to teach you something. Founded by So Your Grind. And goes a little something like this. Take it over, Daddy.
Welcome to Family Abide, So Your Grind. This is a podcast series highlighting lessons learned by the hard knocks and by grace. My name is Robert E. Mesker Jr. and my co-host is Divine Lee, aka D. Lee. Our podcast intersects between the culture, faith, family, and finance. Episode 5, Hope or Naivety? How to maintain spiritual optimism in a world seemingly filled with adversity and tragedy, and the power of choosing to believe that your current hardship will not be the final outcome. So I want to thank Leontier Harris for joining us today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us on, Robert.
No problem. Unfortunately, right now we are dealing with a lot of tragedies in the U.S. and around the world. Before we get into your backgrounds and a little bit about you guys, can you just tell us a little bit about how you guys keep your joy through adversity?
For me, it's the third part of our name. It's the humor. I keep people laughing. I keep myself laughing. That's my thing. I like to make myself laugh, so it's just infectious. That's one of the ways, but it's just now I'm learning to talk as well, communication, not just holding everything in, because that's something I struggle with. That makes adversity and that makes the turmoil, that makes everything you're going through a whole lot worse if you keep it in. So that's one way that's two ways that we get through it.
For me, it's being in a place of not keeping that joy and knowing that like none of our assignments are done yet. So if we're going to be here, it's no point of being miserable and being here, because it's just more draining. Like you lose so much energy, you lose so much of yourself when you don't take the time to find the joy, because like you said, adversities are going to be here. Everybody's going through different things. It's things that we have no control over. And if we allow it to consume us, then it can take us under. Like, I don't even watch the news anymore. That's another way. It's just, you keep away from the things that take so much out of you. And so, what works for me is knowing that my assignment is not done. And so maybe my joy might bring somebody else some joy.
That's a big thing, talking about just creating that mental space, both of you guys, as far as keeping humor, but also being positive, a power positive outlook. One of the things that I read about when I was looking at you guys' profile was an interabled couple. And I'm actually in the field of therapy, and I wasn't 100% sure what that meant. Can you guys just kind of describe to us and the listeners what an interabled couple is?
All right, so basically, I'm a wheeler and she's a walker. That's it. This is for your daughter, right?
Yes.
Wheelchair and she can walk.
But it describes any couple where one person or both have a disability. Yeah. And one has a disability, and in our case, we both have a disability. If people consider ADHD to be a disability, then I would have to be considered a mental disability, and Leon has a physical disability. So it's a relationship that could involve a physical or mental disability in one person or in both people in the relationship.
All right. So tell us a little bit about Leon. Obviously, you're in a wheelchair. How did that happen? And then how did you guys meet?
So for me, it was about over 15 years ago at this point now. I had just turned 17. I was coming home from work, a little after school job. And another young gentleman, actually, him and 3 other people, tried to rob me. Where they robbed me at was kind of close to my house, so I tried to run away. I was naive, and I'd never been in that situation before, so I went to run, not realizing he had a gun, and he shot me. It was one bullet that went into my shoulder, kind of bounced around in my body, almost hit my heart, and then it's still stuck in the T3 section of my spine today. What ended up happening in the hospital was I had swelling that went in my spine up to C6, which made me a quadriplegic. And for about 2 to 3 months, I lost all movement in my body. I wasn't able to move my arms like I am today. Due to that, now I am able to move my arms, but I have decreased sensation in my left hand, and like I can't feel temperature changes or anything like that, so I have to watch out for burns. But other than that, it's been all joy.
You know what? I mean, I think that's kind of big, people growing up in urban environments. I technically grew up in a suburban environment, but I went to school at Howard, which is in DC. And more people than you realize have probably been through a similar scenario and just didn't end up like you. I had a situation where, I was walking late at night coming from a party and somebody came up to me and just kind of, it's like, we could make this easy. And next thing you know, somebody's coming from the backside, hitting me on top of my head. And you could fight or you could run. I ended up running. But I mean, in the same scenario, it just happened. I ran. They didn't run after me, or they couldn't run after me. But I could have been in your situation. And it's one of those things that it's a life-altering thing. And I'm just amazed at how you guys are able to just find the positive, because I don't know. Obviously, it didn't happen to me, but I don't know how much joy I would have been able, to maintain through that type of adversity, because it changes the way you look at the world. How much did it change the way that you looked at the world when it happened?
It didn't. I've been the same person. I think now, as I'm getting older and having a lot more pains and stuff, I'm becoming that bitter handicapped person that you hear about. I'm not gonna lie. I'm working on it. I'm getting medication and therapy, so I'm a lot better. But in the beginning, no, it didn't change me. I was kind of, bubbly. I had to be the person to soothe you. I didn't want you crying over me, because I wasn't really crying at that time. So I didn't want you crying. So I was kind of, that's what I used. The jokes was just like this. Just forget it. We gotta keep moving. I gotta go through this therapy. Like, leave me alone. Let's go do therapy. But I want to say, you just. I've never heard anybody say they ran before. I've always wondered. Yeah, I've always wondered if I was a coward, like if I was stupid. Like I was like, what I'm saying? I was 17, so I didn't know what to do. But that nagging thought, like, damn, was you stupid for running? Right. So like, I've never heard anybody else in a similar situation say they ran. So like, that for me was just not validation, but it just was like, all right, well, you didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody knows what they're going to do in that situation. I mean, for me, it's one of those things about, being in the city, and I saw them and I walked past them and I didn't cross the street because I'm like, oh, we both brothers. Right. I ain't going to try to treat you like that. So I walked past them and then they came up from behind. But if I was in front, I would have done something different. But since they were already behind me, I was like, let me just keep on going. But I always wonder, like, even something small, it's like, because they actually pulled off my jacket, but they didn't get anything else. I'm always wondering, well, should I just cross the street? I'm like, I don't know. I always look back.
It's always that nagging. It's always like, nobody ever know what a nagging thought I have. I always had a thought like, because my house was like literally right there. You can see my house. I didn't realize that, like, I lived in Upper Darby, so I didn't know what a gun was. I didn't think he had a gun on him. But yeah, I didn't even hear the gunshot. So yeah, I always wonder, but like today was definitely, I appreciate it.
Tiara, you did not know Leon before his disability. So how was that transition? And, I think typically a lot of times, I mean, I have a daughter, she's growing up. I'm sure she's growing up and, you see these Disney fairy tales of, your man in shining armor, the prince kissed the prince kissed the frog, and all these other things happen. How was that transition of, going probably, I don't know if this is the first disabled person you dated, or how was that transition?
I'm the fourth, bro.
Um, so I'll also tell you how we met. I'm going to give you my version of the story because we're not going to listen to Leon's lies today. We went to the same church. Leon was serving on a board for a nonprofit organization who held an event, and that's where I met him at. I ended up following him on Facebook because I knew he was good with computers. And then when I needed him, I sent him a message. Mm-hmm. Leon's version is I slid in his DMs. But so when I met him, there was no, I actually just told him this other day. I never approached it as if he was somebody I was going to date. And I honestly can't say that it, like if it was about the chair or not about the chair. I think I was just at a point where I wasn't looking for anything. And I was just kind of trying to enjoy my life as a single person in terms of me being comfortable being by myself. And so we became friends, and I was actually not really ever used to somebody just being as nice as he was, unfortunately. Like I have brothers, but I think outside of even my brothers, because that doesn't make them saints, you know, just because they're my brother. I think like I hadn't had a lot of exposure to guys who are just generally nice guys. And so I kind of was like, oh, okay, this is different. I didn't really know how to approach it because I was like, is it a churchy thing? Is it like something more to it? But then the more I got to know him, and I didn't realize when we first met that he hadn't always been in his chair. So even that was an awkward thing for me to realize. Like, I was like, oh, I seen a picture on his Facebook and I was like, oh, he used to be able to walk. Then it was like, well, now I'm curious, but then like, I don't want to ask the question because it feels like an inappropriate question to ask. And I think once I realized I was interested, I only saw it as this is something that we can learn to figure out together, because you could end up with somebody who can walk, who may not have the issues that he has, but they could still not be interested in the same things that you're interested in. They could still not want to do the same activities that he can't do. And so it was kind of like, this may not be any different than if I was with somebody who did not have a spinal cord injury.
Wow. You said a lot of stuff right there, just as far as, you know, being open. I think one of the things you were saying was that you were working on yourself, and in the process of working on yourself, you became open to seeing other people for who they were. Leon, how was the transition afterwards? You know, I know a lot of times there's always a stereotypical thing about meeting people in church, or I know the first time I gave my wife a hug, she's like, you gave me a church hug. I didn't think you were interested in me. You give me a little pat on the back, you know? So how was that? How was that transition?
Dating in our church was not, nobody knew we dated in our church. Let's just say like that. So yeah, nobody knew we were dating. So yeah, she got the church hug. She got the church high five.
For a long time.
And I'm laughing now. I can laugh now, but it was not funny then. It was
no.
Not funny.
Yeah, this episode is not about church hurt and church drama, but there's a lot of that there.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. Yeah, we adjusted though. I mean, I think we adjusted all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not churchy.
We're no longer. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys both have a shared daughter together. How was that process of deciding that you guys wanted to create a family? Obviously, you know, I love the interaction. You can see couples, you know,
there, man.
How was that process? Because obviously, once you decided that you guys are dating, some people will say, oh man, there's so much that you don't know when you're getting into a relationship. And there's already so much that you don't know when you have kids. So how was it going from the process of just like, okay, we want to be in a relationship, we want to get married, to the next step, we want to take this further and have children?
I was not really trying to have a kid. I hope my kid don't hear this. I hope your kid don't. But I wasn't trying to have a kid. I really wasn't. I don't know. I think the wheelchair scared me.
I was just going to say it was a requirement for me.
Yeah.
So before we went from just being friends to dating, I needed to know that he was comfortable with having kids, especially because I'm older than Leon. So I needed him to understand that I was at a point of like, I'm ready to settle down and I'm ready to start a family, because I felt like my clock was also ticking. So I knew there were things, I wanted time to be married before we got pregnant and I thought we were going to have more than one. Leon changed my mind on that, and it was a great decision. But I was like, I didn't want to ruin our friendship if it wasn't going to work, because I think that a lot of people don't take the time to have those conversations before they fall in love. And I think it just makes things harder. So before I even fall head over heels for you, because you can't go half on the baby. Like, you can't be like, I want one, you don't. We want to go have half a baby. Why am I going to go through that heartache of you not wanting one and I do, and then us having to break up because that's something we can't meet in the middle on? So it was something for me that was like, if we're going to do this, this is something I need to know that you're okay with.
I mean, I think that's great having that conversation ahead of time, because a lot of people wait to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Leon, I heard you said you had a little apprehension just because of the chair.
I mean, I think I just had a lot. I mean, my patients too, because I worked with kids. She didn't know I worked with kids in a daycare, like when I was on a walk, and I was like, no. I was like, no, this is no. But I mean, what won me over was I met her niece. And I told her, I told her one condition. I was like, yeah, I'll have a kid, but you got to keep the kid in you for 4 years. That was my caveat. Now, she didn't hold up to that, because that was all I said. I didn't like, the baby stage is cool, but I didn't like the toddler stage. I knew for me that was a hard stage because, again, my disability, and you have to teach a human everything about life. And I'm like, I can only teach you kind of half of life, because, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little distorted. So I was always worried about, like, how would I do it? And I mean, I'm handling it well, I guess, but.
I mean, Leon was a stay-at-home dad for what, almost 3 years?
I mean, you technically say he's 4, because I still was old.
Well, yeah, you still technically at home. But I think he's done an amazing job at it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, and it's funny when you see couples who are married, especially minority or Black couples that are married, a lot of times people say, you know, I just want to see, you guys are just great spirits. I would want to see how your spirit would be in a new person. And, you know, both of you guys are like, you know, just really, it's like, well, I just want to see that continuation of it.
Yeah. I never heard the positive way of looking at it, where people are like, when y'all having a baby? When are you going to start a family? Yeah. Are you going to have more? It's always like, it always seems like more nagging versus the compliment that your spirits are a beautiful thing that we would love to see recreated in another person. I've never heard it said that way. And that makes it, that makes it much more beautiful.
No, I don't want the compliment anymore. Don't give me that compliment.
I mean, we're not having it anymore.
Like, I see me. Like, whoa.
Spoiler alert, it's a lot.
You see you? And you can't tell you to stop being you? Oh my God.
But no, I mean, it is, because, you know, you bring a lot of, you know, it seems like both of you guys, you know, kind of step into a room and light up the room. And it's always interesting to see how that, you know, matures and how that can be shown to the next generation. So, so now you have a daughter. What's your daughter's name?
Noelle.
No,
it's actually Leon's name backwards.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you have a child. Obviously, it's a lot of work. How did you guys kind of teach her about disabilities? Because one of the things that I want to make sure that I teach to my daughter is just being aware of disabilities, how to approach them. And I don't think there's any one perfect way to do that, but like, how did you guys go about doing it?
So we cheated, basically. Having a parent that can be home all the time kind of helps. I think it helps. Like, she could go to work knowing that Noelle was safe. You know, she could do what she needed to do for the house, and knowing that I could take care of Noelle for the most part, as long as I was good. It still was rough, but we had a good support system at that time, because Mom was still in Philly. Yeah. My mom would come up. Yeah. From almost near Delaware, because we lived in Philadelphia. Like, we lived in like a central part of Philadelphia, so we was close to a lot of people. There was a lot of times I was sick at that time, and people would come over and babysit while I would just be in the room resting. I'm halfway dying every time.
Or take her while he was in the hospital.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would have hospital stays, so somebody would take her. So we had a good circle. It's like God does everything well. I'm appreciative of God always, because in every situation, we're always where we need to be. We're always where we need to be, and that just hit me. But at that point, we had our support system where we needed that right then, so that helped. I think now it's easier to teach her about disabilities and inclusion and accessibility, because she understands it more, she sees it more. Growing up for like the first 3 years, she wasn't too involved in my wheelchair. Like she saw it and was just like, okay. But like now she interacts, she push it, she hop in it, she knows how it works. She knows if I'm like falling to go get mom. Like there's a lot like now her brain's mature, all the things she's seen clicking. So she's like basically like my right hand. She's like my right hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's a normal,
kid form, but yeah, she's like my right hand. If something go wrong, I'm
it's
good.
part of her norm, unfortunately.
Yeah,
not unfortunately because this is our life, but
yeah, I get what you're saying.
He's always been in the chair, so it hasn't been an adjustment for her. She doesn't know him any other way. She's just recently seen him be able to stand up, so she's always seen him in the chair. You know, he's been in the hospital multiple times, so that's something she's already kind of gotten used to, you know, in a sense, traumatized by. Yeah. But it helps us to explain things. She's seen his nurse. We've had the same nurse with us for over 2 years now, and she's basically a part of our family. And it allows her to kind of explore, you know, if this is something that she's interested in. It's a way to teach her about, you know, the medical field, about disabilities. You know, she pulls out her little document stuffings kit when the nurse comes, and she's doing her little assessments along with us. And so you just take all of those moments and you make them teachable. So you take what you can from those moments and you kind of give a little bit so that they're not too overwhelmed, because she is only at this point only 4.5. So you figure out ways, but she also teaches you how to do those things, because without her, we would never even have to think to have those conversations. So she teaches you to dumb it down as much as you can to give it to her in the simplest form, because of her age. And even just recently, she had a day where she has these days where she doesn't care about her dad. She's just like, why is he here? What is going on? I just want mommy. And I took it as an opportunity to say, everybody is different, and we have to make them feel like they're just as important and as special as we are, because we would never want anybody to feel isolated or left out because of their difference. And, you know, I almost was able to take that moment about his disability and kind of make it about being Black in America too, because, you know, not having her understand that, like, girl, you are a Black woman who are going to be facing a lot of different things. And, you know, somebody's going to probably treat you different. And I want you to be able to recognize that, because I want you to treat everybody the same as much as you possibly can. So yeah, for her, and she's smart and she's inquisitive. So she kind of makes it a little easier to teach because she's open to learning. But like he said, we've always had a great support system. We've kind of been where we were supposed to be when we needed to be. Even when I was working, having coworkers who are, you know, willing to offer help and support. And, you know, if it was something that we didn't have, they may have known somebody that knew something.
So when I got here, I got sick. When we moved and I got sick here.
Yeah, my coworkers were
coworkers that were here that were closer to this house.
That was closer here that have come over and helped take care of him. They've sent their family members to come here to take care of him. If I needed to stay here with her because he needed to go to the emergency room and she was already asleep, they would meet him at the hospital. So it kind of makes the journey a little bit easier when you know you have the right people along on the journey with you.
Yeah. So what I'm kind of hearing is that it wasn't necessarily like a specific script that you guys did or anything, but you just took the blocks that were given to you and you just started building on them.
Yeah. I'm learning to plan things now. But I kind of just live, because you don't know which life's going to throw you.
Yeah. But I think
my wife's a planner, but like I'm like, them plans going to trash. Not like that to you, but like them plans, like you don't know what life's going to throw at you. So me, it's just like
but that's my anxiety that makes me plan. If I don't, then I'm nervous. But I think in terms of like teaching children about disabilities, it's not shying away from it.
Yeah.
It's don't be that parent or that adult that tells them, shh, don't look at that person, don't ask them questions. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't let them ask questions to that person. You should be willing to answer their questions.
Somebody need to teach it.
Have books at home. Don't have all of their characters look the same. Don't show them shows and books and toys that don't show them variety, because without it, then they don't have the opportunity to know that this is normal, and they don't have the opportunity to ask questions that they may not be familiar with. I'm thinking about.
I wish we had a link that people could just click on to find out some wheelchair inclusive toys or something. I don't know. Just wish there was a link somewhere.
I think there's a link somewhere where people can find wheelchair inclusive toys and books.
I mean, things are slowly getting better.
Yeah.
But it's so much more to go. And it's hard, just trying to represent the diversity of thought and experiences that happens with all different types of people, depending on your abilities or not. Actually, I just gave a diversity and inclusion talk the other day, and I was going through the differences between equity and equality. And one of the things that I noticed, we actually had a picture of somebody in a wheelchair. We had people in 3 different heights. I'm sure you probably guys have seen something like this before. That a person who was very tall, then they had another person who was short, and then they had a person in a wheelchair. And each of these people were given a block to stand on. And that's equality. All of them were given on a block. And you had a fence where I was right there. So they couldn't see through the fence. But what happens is sometimes, if somebody, for example, if somebody's disabled and they're given a block and they're looking at a fence and everybody else can stand on the block, you stop seeing the fence as the problem. You start seeing yourself as the problem, because it's like, well, why can't I, function and everybody else is functioning? It's definitely a challenging scenario to make people aware of that, because sometimes people don't even see it.
They don't realize it. They don't realize it.
Yeah.
Tiara, I heard you used to be a respiratory therapist.
Yeah.
How was that, first, meeting Leon and just kind of having some of the understanding of that? And then how did that, help? Or sometimes it might been a challenge because maybe too much, with getting into this relationship.
I think it helped in the fact that I was comfortable with different people. I was comfortable with the medical stuff because I'm able to understand it for the most part. I do think there still was a lot that I didn't know. There's still a lot that I'm learning now. But like I said, it helped us to grow even more in our community, because I would have so many people there that understood what our relationship was like. People that were able to help me learn more about the things that he would go through. Even for me, it was hard to call out from work because I would have that guilt about leaving my team behind if I needed to be there for him. But having people understand that his life is different, and having people be concerned about that too. So if I wasn't there, people, were always curious if is Leon okay? And so that helped a lot, because then, like I said, we have coworkers who become friends, and they're almost like family, who have been able to come and help him when I needed them to be able to come and help. Or, when he was dealing with a really bad wound, they had wound care nurses that were part of their family that was willing to come to our house and check things out and answer questions. If it was somebody that I didn't know personally at the hospital to be able to ask questions to, they would introduce them to me. They would ask the questions for me. And so that helped us get through a lot of the harder parts of it. But yeah, I think it helps to know what you're dealing with, because I think even when we were dating, he would have UTIs, and he would end up in the hospital dealing with different things. And I'm able to understand, and I'm able to know what to look for. I'm able to know, does their treatment plan make sense? Is it something that, are there certain questions he should be asking that he may not be asking? I was able to advocate for him as a patient for the treatment that he was getting that I didn't think was appropriate, or if the treatment he was getting should have been better. Because Leon will take it. He will be in the hospital, and he'll just take it, and because he just wants to be done and he wants to get out of there. Where I'm kind of like, no, y'all need to do things that make sense. Cluster his care. Don't come in here every single hour versus y'all coming in here together and then letting him be able to actually get some sleep. But yeah, and also in the sense of sometimes you do know too much, and then you start to worry about everything. And I think I had a moment towards the end of my career as a therapist. I had a moment, and I think that was the beginning of me knowing it was the end. Was I think we kept going through these different things in our relationship in terms of his health. And I kept, because I know enough, I was like, okay, we'll get over this. This is not something that's going to take him out. But then I had a moment where I was like, well, what if it does? Because one of the infections he had was in his bones. And it was kind of like, this is this could be major. I'm looking at
spread,
people,
yeah.
yeah, I'm looking at people who are not surviving certain things, looking at people who are coming in with what could have been a simple UTI or a simple this or a simple that, and they weren't making it out. And it kind of clicked for me that I was like, what if this does take him out? What if this could be the end? Or, should I be planning a life with somebody that could die much younger than I'm anticipating? But then you also are kind of like, anything can happen. So it does kind of help, but then you do have those moments where it is a hindrance because you do end up knowing too much.
How did you transition out of the respiratory field, and how did Harris Hope and Humor start up?
So we actually started Harris Hope and Humor right when the pandemic started. A lot of people felt like our life was interesting and that we were funny. People that interact with us together think that we're funny, and like you said, we can walk in a room and we're kind of light up a room. Shut up. And I kind of was like, I for me, I was like, I don't see it. We're boring. We go home, we watch our kids.
It just made the man laugh right here on his own show.
At that time, I didn't see it that way, and so we decided to finally start because the pandemic had hit, and we were like, let's kind of give people something to be hopeful about. Let's kind of share what we're doing. Let's kind of answer these questions, and let's just kind of share our life, because let's see how many people actually are interested in what I consider to be boring. And we did that, and in the midst of doing that, Leon had osteomyelitis, and at that time we didn't realize that that's what it was. We couldn't figure out why this wound wasn't healing, and so I was dealing with being on the front lines, taking care of him, having our kid who was 2 at that time, and then we're also trying to parent differently than what we were parented, and we're doing it and not having a lot of information on how to do it. And I didn't realize I was basically burnt out. And so I went to take a mental health break because he was going to have surgery. He was going to have a part of his hip removed. And, my therapist at the time was like, you can do this, but at this point, you probably should take a break because you're trying to do a lot of things at once. And it would have also meant me trying to figure out 12 weeks of help. Who was going to be able to stay here with him and her, because he was a stay-at-home dad who now needed surgery and was going to be on bed rest for, I think they
projected 6 weeks.
6 weeks,
maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I was like, well, it's a lot to ask people. As much as people want to be there and want to help, we're also in the pandemic. So how safe is it to have multiple people coming into your house? How can you ask for help when your schedule isn't consistent? I'm working 3 days a week, but they're never the same 3 days every week. And so I ended up just taking off those 12 weeks. Well, it was supposed to be, I took off 12 weeks, 6 for his surgery and recovery. And then I was going to take time just to myself to kind of get myself together to go back. But the closer I got, the more I realized that I just couldn't do it.
Bro, it was Super Bowl weekend. I think I had to go to the hospital Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah, Super Bowl Sunday.
Chick quit then, really. She's not there anymore.
Well, because originally the plan was we were going to get the surgery scheduled, and then I was going to take my break.
Yeah, we wanted to see
when the surgery was scheduled. But then I came home Super Bowl Sunday, and we put Noel to bed. He went in the kitchen to get water, and he's like, "Does my arm look swollen to you?" And I'm like, yeah. And so now it's like, now we got to figure this out. So that's the night that one of my coworkers, he drove himself to the hospital because he had a PICC line in for his antibiotics to help with the wound. And so I was like, well, this could be bad if the arm that has the line in is swollen. And so my coworker and her daughter, because her daughter also was a tech at the hospital and was in school to be a nurse, they met him at the hospital to help him get out the car, without carrying his chair himself and all of those type of things. And so that night I was just like, well, now my break starts today. I'm not going back. I'm not about to figure out how to go back. And then I got to still leave anyway for the surgery. So Super Bowl Sunday was the last day that I worked.
Yeah. In my mind, though, for me, it was that because we had talked about it like after that, a little bit after that. So my mind was like Super Bowl Sunday, like we knew that was it.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm not saying like she was like, I quit and then did F my life. No, I mean, literally like, in my mind, Super Bowl Sunday, like, because it's just this perfect night, like Super Bowl Sunday. Like I missed the Super Bowl because I was in the hospital.
Yeah, and for me, it was like I was exhausted of trying to juggle it all, and I think my coworkers could even recognize that they were concerned about me. I was able to still do my job, but was I really like happy. And I was, you just start going through the motions because that's what you have to do. And then you're dealing with people dying, and you're dealing with, doctors who want to be heroes versus actually, helping people and doing what's best for them. And it just kind of felt like it was one thing after another. I already wasn't loving what I was doing as a therapist, but the pandemic actually gave it like a little bit more life to it again, because we felt like we were really helping people. And then time kept going by, and then it started to feel like we weren't anymore. It felt like we weren't respected anymore the same way we hadn't been for years. And it really became too much mentally to try to push through. And I realized I just wasn't living a life that was fulfilling to me. And, my therapist asked me, what sacrifices are you willing to make to have the life that you want? And that happened to be the sacrifice, was that I don't want to do this anymore, because I wasn't able to see my family the way I wanted to see them, and to be with them the way I wanted to be with them. I didn't want to ever see him as a burden. I didn't want to see my kid as a really hard thing to do. I wanted to enjoy her, and I wasn't at that time. Like, I had postpartum depression. I was burnt out. Like, it just felt like one thing after another, versus this is something financially that's making me have this great life when I leave here. And so I was like, okay, well, something has to change. And so I basically decided not to go back.
Wow. And Leon, how did you feel about that? Because sometimes, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest here. My wife has come home, and it's just like, you know what? I don't know if I'm happy with what I'm doing. And you always gotta have two heads to the household, two hats. And you're like, okay, well, let's start looking, or do this or do that. Or you were just like, man, it's time.
She been over that job we've been together 8. She's been over that job for 5 years, if not more. 5 years.
So you kind of knew already.
So I've been knowing, but for 4 of them years, I had no exit plan. I had no game plan. But this year I did, because I was in cybersecurity boot camp. So I was going through my health issues, but I was still learning something. I was learning a trade, basically learning how to do cybersecurity. So my goal was in August at that time, same year, in August, to start looking for a job to, if she want to quit, we had some savings. We was going to figure it all out. We took the 401k. We was just going to figure it out, just rough it, try to get the Harris Hope and Humor going, see if that can help us. We gambled on ourselves. We really went big on ourselves. We went all in. It went all in on us. Literally went all in. Bet on the house.
Sound like you stepped out in faith a little bit.
Yeah,
kind of paid off.
Always on faith. Yeah. Everything we do is in faith, and that's why God always rewards us. We talk a lot. We still each other. We dream a lot. We say a lot of things we want, and if people just heard like, oh, they just said something. Yeah, we said it once or twice. Years down the line, it'll happen. Years down the line, everything we said happens. Everything. I think we work for it now. God don't just. Right. We work for it, but He opens doors. Which you gotta, you gotta be diligent, and He opens the doors, and you just go through them.
I think I was missing a lot of those doors being open by staying there as long as I had. Like I think he needed me to be okay with doing it. Like, because there were opportunities, like I would interview for different jobs and things that I thought was promising, and then they didn't happen. And I think it was God being like, because none of this is for you. Like, how about that? As soon as you see that, then I can show you the world. I can show you all of these endless possibilities. But I think I was boxing myself in, because I felt like we needed to keep that sense of security, where I think He needed me to not feel, like I needed to be working. I needed to, but I've been here for 15 years. How can I just walk away? We have great insurance. How can I just walk away? And I think God was like, well, whenever you're ready, I'll be right here.
As soon as that, we've been lining up. It's been lining. It's God. Like I said, God's been lining up. Like I said, I've been diligent on my part, but for me, cybersecurity is a place where you don't get a job. You don't get a job if you don't have a degree. So I literally just have like a boot camp certification. And I think I was able to get a job within like 3 or 4 months, which if you go on LinkedIn and you ask anybody, there's people that fills out hundreds of applications, years of applications that got degrees, certifications. As I said, right now we're in a great season, and God's giving us favor.
Bye, fans. Thanks for all that time. I'm Failure by Sorry Daddy, Jody, and Devon, and Mommy. Okay. And mommy.
Who's got my back?
I got your back.
Who's got my back?
Who got that swag?
Who got that swag?
I got that swag. I work it off.
Okay, bye-bye.
Everybody need purpose to make this life worth it. Through the joy and pain, you gotta keep searching. Living life, no regrets. Ain't no shoulda, woulda, coulda, had an altar. Still been a minute since I've been up at the altar.
Thank you for listening to Family Abide. Make sure to subscribe in order to catch future episodes. Family Abide is available on all your favorite podcast outlets. Remember, life is not just about family. It's not just about wealth. It's about building people and communities that endure without yielding. Always choose your abundance beyond insecurities, debts, and entanglements. The next generation is depending on it. Remember your purpose. Sow your grind and watch it grow. Thank you for joining us on Family Abide.
So you're crying.
Everybody need love. I'm tired of my problems, I'm tired of the drama, I'm tired of the pressure from my mama and my papa. I'm tired of the pain, I'm tired of the rain, I'm tired of the hurting, I'm tired of the working, I'm tired of the struggling, I'm tired of the hustling. I'm so sick and tired of having nothing.
Jam, you got something to say?
But I have to say, I'll turn when you wait.
Yeah, I think it's good developing daddy-daughter relationships.